just want to say from the outset, that this is obviously a time where we as a family, as Curate, come together to give together in the season. If you're visiting with us, being here is our gift to you. And so there's no pressure or anything like that. I think it's good to be generous, but don't feel obligated to or anything like that. It's just something we do every year as a community. And we won't not take your money, but I just want to let you know that this is really our gift to you as a community, you being here. So I'm not actually going to preach about money today, even though we're going to do the offering at the end. What I'm actually going to preach about is the heart of our church, and the reason that we would come together to give sacrificially today is because of what I'm going to preach about, because people matter. And as we give, we really believe that it releases something of our ability to reach more people, to care for more people, to love more people, to feed more people, to raise up more people, to do all of those sorts of things. And so I want to speak about that. I think for when you lead something, it's easy for, you're going to always have people that like it, and you're going to have people that don't like it, definitely have that, and then people who sort of don't get it in the middle. And so what I'm really hoping to do today is to explain, for me, years have gone into thinking about a way to try and translate our heart in this community in a way that just helps people get what we do, why we do it, what it's about, and how all the pieces work together. And so hopefully today, if you're a person who doesn't get it, you get it a little bit more. If you're a person who likes it, you love it even more. And if you're a person that doesn't like it, maybe you end up going to like it or you're going to leave. Either or, you're going to realize that maybe is not the place that I'm called to be. And that's all okay. So we're not precious. We just want people to do well. And so I don't know if I'm digging holes or not, but here we all are. You can belong no matter what you believe. Let me pray and then we'll do it. Father, thank you so much for your glorious Son, Jesus Christ. He is the reason we are gathered here today, Lord, and we are thankful that for you sending him, that he would die for us, that he would love us and make a way for us. God, would you receive all of the glory from our lives, from this church. Lord, we recognize your hand all over it. God, as we open your word today, all of us, we just open up our hearts and mind to you, and we ask that you would speak to us. Lord, your promise is that your word would never return void, but would accomplish the purpose for which it was set forth. So, Lord, we invite your purposes into our heart. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen, amen, amen. I'm just going to crack on into it. If you've got a Bible here, you can grab that out to Luke chapter 15. If you're here for the first time, you're in church for the first time, we didn't expect you to bring your own Bible. It's okay. Most of the Christians don't even bring theirs, so that's fine. Luke chapter... I've got my phone, so I can Instagram and Bible at the same time. So, Luke 15, verse 1. Luke 15, verse 1. There's a problem that's existed for thousands of years, and that's that religious people feel like God should be obsessed with them, and the God that we worship here, Jesus, seems to be obsessed with those who aren't religious. And there's this tension that exists where when we come to know God, we feel like we're the center of the story, but God keeps trying to remind us that, we really matter to him, but God's always on the move to those who don't yet get it or to those who don't fit in. And in Jesus' day, that was exactly the issue. Just some context before we get in. There were religious people who thought they were who mattered most to God. And then Jesus came, and if he was God's son, he seemed to have very little time for religious people. He seemed to spend most of his time with the type of person that wouldn't be found in church, as opposed to the type of person who grew up in church. And so there's this tension where people didn't get it. They felt like if Jesus is this religious, this God, he's a son, even if he's just a prophet, why is he not spending more time at church? And they're getting jealous. The church people are getting jealous of him. And so he tries to explain it here in Luke chapter 15. He says, tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus to teach. Now, Jesus had an audience that was not normally found in church. This made the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious law, the church people, complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them, which is to say accepting them and being hospitable towards them. So Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the other 99 others in the wilderness and go to search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he'll call together all of his friends and his neighbors, saying, rejoice with me because I've found my lost sheep. Let's have a party. In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. Or suppose a woman, just in case you're not getting it, has 10 silver coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she will call in her friends and neighbors and say, rejoice with me because I've found my lost coin. And in the same way, there is joy in the presence of God's angels whenever one sinner repents. So if there's joy in the presence of God's angels, that means they're looking at pure joy over the Heavenly Father who is rejoicing. And then to illustrate the point further, Jesus told them the story about the prodigal son. And you can go on and read that one later. But we get from this story that what Jesus is trying to say is that God seems to be incredibly distracted by lost things. God seems to be incredibly distracted by lost things. I don't know, have you ever lost anything? Yeah, I mean, it's a daily experience in my house. It's either the keys, the wallet, or the phone. Never often do all the Trinity exist in one location. They are scattered throughout the house. They're in all different places. Often the keys are found already in the car. Even if I find the wallet, it doesn't mean all the cards are present in the wallet. You know, and when you find the phone, well, that's a miraculous day. If one of the kids hasn't taken it, hidden it somewhere, I have to get someone else's phone out, find my phone, get the ding going so I can locate where it is. Yeah, it's like playing a game of like hot or colder with yourself, and as the ding goes throughout the house. And when you lose things, isn't it amazing when you lose something, you don't really care about all the found things. Like, you know, if I've lost my phone, Katie's not like, it's okay, you've got your wallet. It's all right, the TV's still on the wall. The couch is still there. Our house is here. The car's still in the driveway. There's something incredibly distracting about lost things. It's as if when you discover that something that matters to you is lost, it really doesn't matter how many found things you have. It just matters that something is lost and we cannot do anything else until the lost thing is found. It's not that the found things don't matter. It's just that I know where they are, so I've got to find the lost thing. It's not that the wallet doesn't matter. It's not that the keys don't matter. It's just they're not lost. And when things are lost, it's like it brings a tunnel vision to us. It's like we become distracted by just this one thing. It doesn't matter how many found things if there's a lost thing. That's what Jesus isn't saying, man, this shepherd is so noble. And this woman, she's so faithful. Jesus isn't saying that. They're just saying, isn't this how we roll as humans? When something is lost, we are completely distracted by it. Any good parent has lost a child. I say you're a good parent if you've lost a child because, like, if you're a helicopter parent, you're never going to lose a child. Don't be that. Don't smother them with your helicopter hoveriness over their lives all of the time. You know, like, let them free. And so if you've let them free, it's a sign of good parenting, I believe, if you lose a child every once in a while. Like, you don't want to lose them permanently, but you do, you know, you're going to lose them for a little bit. And if anyone's ever lost a child, I'm pretty sure we've lost all of our kids at different stages, some of them multiple times. And maybe there's a pattern, I don't know, but they're trying to get away from us. But one time we lost Micah, and he's 12 years old now, but when he was about 1.5, we were actually starting a new small group this night, so we thought, man, let's get 12 people that we invited on a Sunday, just, hey, come join our group, come join our group, come join our group. We're all going to get together this Tuesday. We're going to have a dinner, a barbecue for our first group night, so we can all just get to know each other, set a good relational platform. You know, you guys bring something, we'll provide the meat or some sort of arrangement like that. Everybody's coming in, and within about 30 minutes of this first ever small group, Micah is missing. Now, as much as the small group was important, And as much as making all of these people who are already Christians and believers feel like comfortable and hospitable and loved, and, as much as cooking the meal was important, when there was a lost child, it's amazing how all of a sudden all that stuff doesn't matter. It's like all I can see, all I can think about, all that can come into focus is Micah is lost and nothing else matters until he's found. So if a kid was to come up and be like, what are we having for dinner? It's a good question. It's just not that important when a child's lost. If somebody was to ask, where's the bathroom? It's a good question. So you need to know whether, but when a child's lost, it's not really a pressing matter. And so in church, if God is distracted by lost things, what really matters? Like there's lots of important things. There's lots of things that matter, but what Jesus is trying to say is there's one thing that matters above all of them. And we can talk about all the other things as long as we're talking about them in context of the main thing, that God is distracted by lost things. And I am thankful He is. Because if God was not focused on making room for one more, if God was not distracted by lost things, if God would not always move in that direction, I would not be here. I don't know about your story. I didn't grow up in a church family. I didn't grow up knowing God. And if God, and I imagine for all of us, even if you grew up in a church family, your family is only a church family and a God-loving family because God's consumed with one more. God's focused on one more. If God wasn't a one more type of God, I would still be that same lost teenager that I was then. If God was not a one more God, you'd probably still be stuck in that addiction. If God was not a one more God, your life wouldn't be filled with eternal hope and purpose that Jesus has filled it with. If God was not a one more God, the freedom and the blessings that you'll experience in Christ, you wouldn't know any of those things. In fact, the only reason you are here today, the only reason you have breath in your lungs, the only reason the whole world is still here is because God is a one more type of God. And God is patient, the scriptures tell us, and that He wishes that none shall perish, but that all should have eternal life. And God is waiting patiently, and He's giving as much time as possible so that the lost things might have an opportunity to come home and join the party. And I think the church has only really been the type of God-honoring church that Jesus is looking for on this planet when the church is distracted by lost things. Man, we get distracted by a lot of things, and that's okay as long as we're distracted by the main thing. God is looking for churches that are about the one more because God is about the one more. And so God is looking to pour His energy, He's looking to pour His blessing, He's looking to put His favor over people's lives who are a part of what He's doing. I want you to see that actually when God draws you to Himself, He doesn't just draw you into an intimate relationship with Him, He draws you into His purposes. In fact, Jesus, when He was on this earth and He was recruiting His disciples, when He recruited His earliest disciples of Andrew and Peter, He said to them, I think in Matthew chapter 4, He says to them, hey, come follow me and I will teach you to become fishers of men. Come follow me and I will teach you to become fishers of men. In fact, He was drawing them to Him, but He was also drawing them to His purpose, which is to become somebody who draws in other people. I got Jacob, Dylan. Why don't you guys jump on up here? You don't know, they're looking at me so stunned. Can we welcome them up? Yeah. Happy birthday, Jacob. Was it your birthday this week? But you had a party. It's tomorrow.
Dylan's is today.
It's your birthday today. What's the chances? I did not know that. Fantastic. You guys are... Did you ever play like, what's it called? Like chain tiggy? Yeah. We'd have called it gang up tag in Wellington, but we're from like the hood, you know? So, apparently up in here in Tauranga, they call it chain tiggy. Do you guys ever play that? You don't know what that is? So what it is like traditional tag is like tag, you're it, and now you're chasing us until you tag one of us, and then now no tag backs, like those sorts of things. So playing with 3 gets a bit lame, but that's traditional tag. But chain tagging is like, if I'm it and I tag Dylan, Dylan's now on my team. And now me and Dylan are both going after Jacob. And then we get Jacob, and now we're going after Andy. And then when we finally get Andy, but he's pretty quick and nimble for an old guy. And so, he is my goal when I'm whatever age he is. But he can handstand skateboard, and then he joins our team, and then we're all like, now we're linking arms, and there's a tension between it, and we're pulling and we're pushing, but we believe if we can act in unison, we actually have a greater chance of catching the next person because we have a greater spread. And the more people that join our chain, the greater our spread, the greater our ability to sort of trap people and to have people know where to escape. And I'm making that sound really negative, but this is, in the positive sense, this is exactly God's plan for the church. It's not that, hey, I would tag you and like, cool, I've got my one more, I'm just going to sit down, it's on you now. Like Jesus has tagged me and now I've tagged somebody, so I'm done. But that we would somehow draw together and keep drawing together for the thing that God is distracted by, the one more. You guys are great. Thank you very much. And I don't believe that any of us don't really care about what God cares about. I really just think we get distracted by lesser things. I think if we would wake up every day and actually just pray for those people who don't yet know Jesus, the one mores in our lives. In fact, what would naturally come is a focus on them, and all the right behaviors and energies would naturally follow if we just made sure we brought the things that were lost into our tunnel vision. I think we don't have to be like, I need to reach people, I need to try. You just actually need to bring it into focus and trust that God's put His heart in your heart as you're a follower of Him, and it'll naturally flow out if you just bring it into focus and remind yourself there's still lost people out there. In fact, in a world like ours, and in a country like ours, and a city like ours, there's more lost people than there's ever been. And that's why the church needs to be greater than it's ever been. It needs to be more loving than it's ever been. It needs to be more focused than it's ever been. It needs to be more sacrificial than it's ever been. It needs to be less personal peace and lifestyle focused than it's ever been, but more like I'll give my all, full surrender than it's ever been, if it's truly going to make a dent and turn around the patterns in our world. Lost things, they matter to God. And God is inviting us into His story to make a difference, to bring the lost things home. I need some of those props if that's okay. Eric, that'd be fantastic. Did you repackage this? Is it going to work? Fantastic. Great job. I don't know what you think of. Don't have the wingspan. I don't know what you think of when Jesus says, come follow me, I'm going to teach you to be a fisher of men. But I imagine most people think of this, because that's the sort of fishing we know. Right? I'm going to get my rod. This is me, the line. And Jesus is just going to throw me into the world. I'm going to bring it in. I didn't get anything. Let me try again Tuesday. There's no hooks, don't be afraid. It's just an analogy. It's not, it would have been great though, a little lure out there. This is what we think of because this is the type of fishing we know. This is also the type of fishing most people think about and the reason why they don't go fishing. Because most of the time you throw it, you don't get anything back. Right? And that's how we think about reaching people. We think, I tried this week, but nothing. I tried this week, but nothing. I tried this week, but nothing. I'm just going to focus on something else because this is depressing. I could get passionate about it for a month, but now just nothing. There's nothing, so I don't want to go fishing anymore. But this isn't the type of fishing Jesus was talking about, because this is not what they did on the Sea of Galilee when He said, come follow me and I'll make you a fisher of men. He actually did a different type of fishing. He went net fishing. We know that even from the story because he said, let down your nets on the other side. And they didn't want to fish anymore because they hadn't caught anything. And sometimes we get like that. We haven't caught anything, so I don't want to go fishing anymore because I never catch anything. But what I want to show you is that when you're a part of something that's always catching something, you're always catching something. And so he wanted to go net fishing. I'm probably going to need some volunteers for this. Hayden, Mountain Location Pastor, get on up here. Maybe we could get Mavrianis. Come on, Nathan. Yeah, we're just clapping him. Come on, welcome these guys up. You take that. It's a half-hearted golf clap. I'm going to need you, and we're going to get to the end here eventually. All right. This is you over here, okay? We've got sinkers low, floats are high. That's you. We don't need you. Fantastic. Yep. Are you sorted down there? It's a complicated task, isn't it? The net. Fishing. Net fishing. You're not going to catch anything like that, but maybe if you grab your two ends and you scoot around down there, like take those that way, and I'm going to hold the middle here. What is this? Well, you're getting not only a great message, but you're also learning how to go net fishing at the same time, okay? So it's like a double bonus. Even if you get nothing out of this, you can go buy one of these. Something like this, okay? So this is a net. This is how we go net fishing. Now, Nathan, you're just going to give your ends to Hayden, and then you're going to come do this down here so that I'm like mobile and good to go. Fantastic. So this is the net. And when Jesus said, I want you to become a fisher of men, I believe this is what he was talking about. He was using the net analogy. I've been thinking about the net analogy for a very long time. Like, what is the net? What could he mean by this? And I think there's something beautiful about this. In the fishing rod, like we're like the line, and in the net, we're also like the line. Like you're not a net, but you make up the net. And the best way I could sort of explain it would be like you imagine yourself as just one of these strands of nylon. Alone, you're not really going to catch much unless you have a hook and some bait. But as a part of a net, your life can be exponentially more effective than it could have ever been alone when you were just a line. And so if we look at this, it's like, why would a line ever draw towards another line? It would only ever draw towards another line to form a net if it realized that together they could be more than they could be alone. Like you need to have a perspective to even become a part of a net. You need to have a perspective of like, I don't care who gets the glory as long as we achieve a lot. You need to have a perspective that's like, man, I'm okay, but with everyone else, I'm great. Oh man, like if I could tie myself into a net, there's a flow of grace and favor and blessing and honor that's so much greater than just what I access on my own. It's sort of like what Paul was writing about in 1 Corinthians 12, where he says, this makes for harmony among the members, so that all members care for each other. If one part suffers, all parts suffer with it. If one part is honored, all the parts are glad. All of you together are Christ's body, and each of you is a part of it. It's like, you're not the whole thing. You're just a strand. But if you would realize, if you would bring honor to God's body, if you'd bring honor to the fact that God's put apostles and prophets and teachers and pastors and generous people and evangelists and helpers and carers and builders and administrators, if God's graced the church and with intercessors and prayers and all of these different people with all these different stories, if you would realize that, it would draw you towards the net because you'd realize the net has stuff I don't have. And when I come be a part of it, I become more than what I am on my own when we honor each other. I love this scripture though, because just bringing a few bits together is not enough. It doesn't form a net. You need to tie some knots in here. In Colossians 2 verse 2 it says, I want you woven into a tapestry of love, in touch with everything there is to know of God. Then you will have minds confident and at rest, focused on God, on Christ and God's great mystery. Man, isn't that beautiful? If honor would bring the lines together, it's love that binds them together. It's love that means when something gets in the net, it doesn't find a hole and fall on through. Actually, the tighter our love is, the more our love is, the stronger the binds of our net are, and therefore the more useful the net to the Lord. In fact, the more we love each other as a church with the kind of love that only God could pour inside of us, the more fish the net can hold, because the more knots there are. Through good seasons and bad seasons, it brings together the weave that is love. However, just a moment, if you just throw a net, it's not going to catch anything except a starfish on the bottom. The net is not enough. Just honoring each other is not enough. Just loving each other is not enough. You have to set the net with purpose and intentionality. It has to be used properly for it to maximize its catch. And so the way we set the net is we unify around God's purposes within our day and age and our time. In 1 Corinthians 1:10 it says, I appeal to you, dear brothers and sisters, by the authority of the Lord Jesus Christ, to live in harmony with each other. Flow in the same direction. Let there be no divisions with the net pulling this way and that way, and we should do this and we should do that, but rather be of one mind, united in thought and purpose. And this is what I want to explain to us as a church, because this is what, it's like, man, we could do so many things. And this isn't the only way, it's just the way we do it here. This is the way we make room for one more. So if I can get all my white t-shirt volunteers up. You guys know the order you're supposed to get in on here, so let's welcome them as they come. Come now. Stephen, you're in first. Then Tim. Then we're missing one. We'll just go for Leonie. You get in there. Oh, look at that. That'll work perfectly. Fantastic. So I want you to understand this, because this is like the church setting its net so that it might reach one more. It's focused, it's intentional. I know this is explaining the behind the scenes, but I want you to get it and see how everything we invest, everything we do, everything we pray about, everything we're focused on is about reaching one more. It has an intentional focus. And so Matt Collier down here, he's an amazing guy. You're a kingdom builder, so this is like big week's vision offering for you guys. You also run an amazing business, probiotics for cows and animals and things like that. You and your wife, Emily, she was at the gathering before this. She's an amazing worship leader. And you run all the production here at the Mount too. So you're doing a fantastic job. And see, Matt here, he's got a t-shirt that says spheres. And I want you to see that every person here, you have a sphere. Your sphere is where you live your life when you're not here for the 1 hour a week. Your sphere is the other 120 something hours. It's your family. It's your parents, it's your kids, it's your work, it's the cafe you go to, the supermarket you go to, it's your social media, it's everything you touch during the week is your sphere of influence where God has you positioned for His purposes. And so as a church, we talk about things, and we're all about, it's not about just what happens here. In fact, it's mostly about what happens here. In fact, what we talk about is about how to equip you to do this well, how to have a great marriage, how to live a great life, how to be a good friend, how to be faithful to God through all of the seasons, how to live, understand that your work matters. And all of these things matter because God's at work through them. It's not about church, it's about being the church.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we have a sphere, and the sphere becomes the opening to the net. The sphere is where people first have a contact with the gospel and the good news, and they go, man, Matt, there's something about the way you do business. It's just, I'm attracted to it. There's something about just like how you help people and you treat your clients differently, and just the way that's got integrity to it. And I want to get close to that. I can trust that. And as I get closer to Matt and I learn, he's a Christian and he believes in the good news of Jesus and he's a part of this church at Curate, all of a sudden, because Matt's so awesome, I'm now open to God. He's sowing some social capital. He's getting some deposits in the bank. So in the right season and opportunity, Matt's like, hey, why don't you come along sometime and meet some more people like me? And so I come along to Sunday. Stella, amazing worship leader here. Would we call you almost Curate Auckland now? Almost, yeah. Just feeding that. But so that's why on Sundays there's all of these people that come and they're out in the car park and they're at the door and they're through the foyers and there's the info station and the coffee and the worship team and the prayer intercessors that you never see but they're here and there's the kids program and there's all these things so that when you would bring somebody into the net, they'd be like, that wasn't that bad. Maybe they might even be like, man, there was something there that I cannot explain. Man, I don't know what that is, but I felt so good being there. I've got to come back. And whether it's their first visit or their 500th visit, we're believing somewhere and through this, they will encounter God for themselves and come to know the good news of Jesus Christ. And so Sundays are how we reach people. So it's like, it matters when you're here or not. Like you might not need the message, but you sow into the atmosphere and the environment, and somebody might have needed to sit next to you today. Somebody might have needed to meet you today or go to your house for lunch. So you being here and creating this atmosphere where God is here, it matters. But then like Sundays, that's okay. And it's great to see lost people saved, but people are very messy. You're very messy. I'm very messy. And God's about one more through the whole process. And so now that I'm saved, I need to be cared for. I need to be pastored. I need to be helped. I need to say goodbye to my old self and learn to welcome in the new Jesus self and that happens through people doing life with me. Yeah. That happens through small groups. It happens through people caring for me and praying for me and helping me through these different things. I don't need a small group. Maybe you don't because you went through this process ages ago, but maybe you need to be in a group so that you can help someone else. Or maybe you're in a season where life's going really awesome right now, but eventually life will not be going really awesome. Because that's the way life works. And when that happens, this is not going to be enough for you. You're going to need these people. And so if you haven't sown into it, then don't be surprised when you get to there. It's like, there's nobody caring for me. It's because you haven't been caring for others as the body should. You haven't been sowing in a foundation. We'll care for anybody. This is how we maximize the potential of who we can care for. And then we've got, that was you, Leonie, our amazing small group director. And then we've got Tim and Amy are on our Auckland team, okay? So they're down here for vision offering. Yes, woo. And so what I believe is that every person was given gifts, not just for the using in their spheres. Your spiritual gifts are your superpower in your sphere, but God gave you gifts for the building up of the body. And when you bring those gifts to the body, the whole body gets better. But when you withhold the gifts from the body whole body is under the potential of what it can be. You have a gift. It might be undeveloped, it might be unrecognized, it might be so normal to you, you don't even realize it's special, but you have a gift. And when you bring it as a part of the Curate team, you make everything better. Actually, the team is how all of that stuff happens. Yeah. So, and then you're doing a great job, Yep, fantastic. And then we've got Stephen, our amazing youth and Ignite pastor here, and he's got a t-shirt that says leaders. And this is really when we raise, all of this can only happen when there's more of these. And every person in this room can be one of these. You might not be a leader of 100, but you can be a leader of 6. And even all of our teams, they're not it's not about using people to make coffee. It's about making coffee to build up people. The stuff's just an excuse to love people and care for people and build up your team. And so when we raise up more leaders, this is why we're always trying to get people to become leaders. When we raise up more leaders, it means more people can have a great experience on team, being loved and discipled and cared for. When we raise up more leaders, there can be more small groups. When we raise up more leaders, the whole Sunday experience continues to skyrocket and get better and better, and we miss less people and we connect with more people. And when more and more leaders are developed, more and more people are coached on how to live out in their spheres in an impactful and life-giving way. This is what we're trying to do as Curate. This is when we say we're making room for one more. It's one more being saved, but not just saved, it's one more coming to know that they're a part of a family. It's one more doing life with other people and being discipled and cared for and pastored. It's one more recognizing that they are on this earth for a purpose and they have things that matter and other people need. And it's realizing that actually the greatest thing you could do with your life is leave a legacy and build some other people so that it might get handed on. This is Curate. This is Curate. This is what we're doing. Thank you guys very much. We can take all of that away. Sandro, wherever you are, can you come join me, please? I'm just going to take that with you. We're almost done. We sung this song before. It said, what the enemy meant for evil, God, you turn it for good. The devil hates God's church. It's why he gets in believers and causes them to not realize that they need to honor each other so that they don't even draw together to make a net. The devil hates God's church. It's why he causes us to hold on to bitterness and unforgiveness and carry around offense so that we don't tie our bonds of love and hold us through every season. The devil hates God's church, and that's why he gets it all working in disunity when we don't work together and we think, I know better and I do this, but realize that unity is the greatest blessing. Being united around a lesser thing is better than being not united around a greater thing. It's more impactful. And so the devil hates God's church, and he hates this church. He hates this church so much that 8 years ago, he tried to wipe this church out, and he almost did. And you might not know much of the story, some of you will, but some of you, when this church was a lot smaller than it is today, but it almost got completely taken out through an attack of the enemy, to the point where there was 50 people left. And we were hurting and we were broken, but what the enemy meant for evil, God has turned to good over the last 8 years. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of one-mores have been baptized into Christ's family. Hundreds of leaders raised up, hundreds of people released into their gifts, like people being cared for and pastored, because the enemy intends to harm God's purposes, because the enemy doesn't want one more reached. But we get the opportunity to constantly make a stand in every day of our lives to go, God, if it's your church is the answer, if your church is plan A, I'm going to choose to be a part of it in some shape, in some form. I'm going to be a cheerleader of it. I'm going to be a supporter of it. I'm going to get behind it in my prayer, in my attitude, in my attendance, in my care, in my love. I'm going to get behind it because I realize when we set the net of this thing, this is the type of church that Jesus said, the gates of hell cannot stand against this. And when we set the net every week here, people get free from addiction. When we set the net here, lost people get saved every week. When we set the net, people that have done life alone for years start doing life with people. When we set the net, people discover their purpose and that they're on this earth for a reason. When they set the net, people raise up and sacrifice and become leaders so that the net might expand and get bigger and stronger and wider. And for the last 8 years in this church, we've tried to make every single decision looking at this. Oh, it's not convenient to open another location, but God is concerned with lost things. Oh, it's not convenient to start another service. Believe me, I would like to do other things on my Sunday, but here I am all day because God is concerned with lost things. Oh, it's not convenient to stretch financially for a bigger building, but man, we're believing for those thousands of people on magnets out on that wall to be saved, and there better be a seat for them. So we're going to stretch for those things. Oh, it's not convenient to try start a college, but we believe we need to raise up pastors and leaders so that the whole net might expand because we're consumed with lost things. Oh, aren't we already doing enough in the community? No, we're concerned with lost things. Let's feed more people. Let's help more kids. Let's clothe more people. Let's do whatever we can in this world because God is concerned with lost things. And so over the years, we've stretched and we've stretched and we've stretched, and I ain't never going to stop stretching because with every stretch, God has done exceedingly above and beyond anything we could ask or imagine. You could have asked anyone 8 years ago, could they imagine this? But only God's mind could have imagined this. In fact, He saw it. And He's orchestrated it. And I believe in the future, there is great harvest right now, but in the future, there is great harvest here in Mount Maunganui. There's great harvest in Papamoa. There's great harvest in Tauranga. There's great harvest in Whakatane. There's great harvest in Auckland. There's great harvest in Kingsland. There's great harvest all around us. And if we don't bring everything of who we are to the net, it will be less than it could have been. But when we bring everything, it can become everything. Do I have enough? No. But God has enough. Am I everything I need to be? No, but God doesn't need me to be. He just needs me to have a yes before Him. And so, when we come together to give together in a moment, I want you to remember it's not about dollars. It's not about buildings. It's not about locations. It's not about colleges. It's not about youth programs. It's not about these things. It's about the thing that God just can't seem to take His mind off. It's about the thing that, it's like, yeah, I've got a lot of found things. But that little girl's out there. I've got a lot of found people, but that teenager's out there. I've got a lot of found people, but my dad's out there. I've got a lot of found people, but in this church, there's more unfound people out on that wall than there's found people in this church. So I want to encourage you. What's God asking you to bring? I want to be real honest today. If you haven't already pre-decided and God hasn't spoken to you in this gathering, I'm not asking you to make a decision today. I want you to go away, carefully consider it and pray to God, because I believe that God doesn't ask us to give under compulsion or I'm feeling it today, so I'm going to give. No, go away. If you haven't decided before today, go away, decide, and bring it next week. Bring it with a discipline and an intentionality. So I'm not asking for money right now. I know that we've been talking about for the last 4 weeks. I've been asking you to ask God. If you've heard from God, you've got clarity, then good, you're ready to fill out the envelope and bring that now. But if you haven't yet, go away and get that clarity if God hasn't spoken to you clearly already. Does that make sense? But make sure you bring it before the end of the month, because we're believing for big things. You know, we went unconditional on a building in Auckland last week. A building way bigger than this building in Kingsland in Auckland. We went unconditional. We're giving towards those things. We're giving towards the college. We already had so many people already apply to do college full time next year, to be raised up as pastors, leaders. Like, God's on the move. So let's just do our part, whatever that is that God's asking us to do.